Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, this week's guitar lesson is somewhere between playing rhythm and somewhere between playing lead. I've got these fill licks that I use when I play, and I usually use them when I'm playing rhythm, although you can incorporate them into your lead playing as well. And so really they're you played with two strings, so there's one string that's a harmony to the other, and it's just a series of those. And so I'm going to show you how that I play them and where they come from. And so we're going to split this week's lesson into two parts. So in this part we're going to look at what I played in the first half, but if you want to watch the second half as well as download the tablature and the jam track so that you can practice these fills, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP082. Alright, so let me talk through the tone that I'm using real quick, and then we'll jump into the lesson. Real quick, I'm using 3 pedals in this. Normally I only have 1 pedal. For those of you that watch other lessons, you hear me talk about the Blues Driver BD2 pedal, which is made by Boss. I usually always have that pedal on. I have it on in this lesson. I have the level set at 50%. I have the tone at about 50% and the gain at about 10%. So just a little bit of gain, just to break it up a little bit and give you a little bit of boost. In addition to that, I have a flashback pedal, which is made by TC Electronic. And that's a delay pedal, and it gives me a little bit of slapback delay. Slapback gives you, it's just an echo, you can hear that. Kind of a vintage sound. And in addition to that, I'm using a Voodoo Lab tremolo pedal. And the tremolo is that kind of wavy pattern that you hear in the sound. And so it's really you're trying to simulate like a Leslie, rotating speaker cabinet or something. Really cool sound. A lot of old, Fender amps would have that built in, and so that's what I'm using on this. You don't need any of those pedals. In fact, you could just plug straight into an amp and play clean channel, and this will sound great, or you can play it on acoustic. So you don't have to have the pedals, but for those of you that want to know how I got the sound, that's exactly what I'm using. Okay, so let's talk through the song. So this song is in the key of D, and before we get into the specific notes, I want to explain where the notes are coming from so that you can start to replicate these and even come up with additional licks on your own. So instead of just playing something like this, which some of you might do, that's what a typical rhythm guitar player might do for the key of D, right? Now I'm playing it up here using this shape, so I'm going to assume you know how to make this this bar shape, but that would be a typical D pattern, but sometimes that gets kind of boring, so you want to throw in some extra licks. And that's what this whole lesson is to inspire you to be able to play things like just little little fills and things. Now you could throw those in between playing just a straight up rhythm. So you could kind of work them in. And that to me is what can make your playing a lot more fun and a lot more interesting to the listener. So this first lick that I play, let's talk about where this is coming from. So we're in the key of D, right? So we have this D chord that you play here where you bar the first 5 strings on the 5th fret. And then I take my pinky, most people use their ring finger, and then you bar the first 4 strings on the 7th fret. And you're only playing the middle 4 strings, so you're playing 5, 4, 3, and 2. And that's an easy way to make a D chord. But what's cool about that is if you think about this finger, or this, depending on which finger you use, the 7th fret finger, you can then shift this up, and then you can kind of build another block here so that you can play all these little lead parts. So you listen to this. So I'm just barring here and I'm playing strings 5 and 4. See, I'm hammering onto the 9th fret. But then watch this, if I go up a string or set of strings, there's the same thing done on strings 4 and 3. So now if you think of just that, if you're playing a D, for example, you can come up here. So now you've got a little bit of color that you can add to it. And you can keep going up the neck. You can keep bouncing back and forth between the 7th and the 9th fret. And then you get up to the, so that's string 5, 4, 3. Then you get up to the 2nd string. You can change to this pattern. So if you were to bar, those first 3 strings there on the 7th fret, you could put down your middle finger on the 8th fret 2nd string and your ring finger on the 9th fret 3rd string. And that gives you another variation. All of that is played off of this kind of, this fret. And so that's how I think of it. I think when I make that chord shape, no matter if you're making a D or any shape, you now have this set of licks. So that's what I'm doing a lot of these fills from, and we'll get into those. The other place that this is coming from is when you think of a D. So that's one D shape. The other D shape is when you think of the D major chord. Sorry, it's up here. So you're barring the 10th fret with your pointer finger, all 6 strings. It's just a D major. It's the same shape as if you're playing an E chord down here. Your nut would be the bar, but now we've moved it up to here. And now your minor pentatonic scale, those of you that should know this by now from other lessons, but your root fret would be the fret that you bar. So your minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 would be here. So if you want to add something in that sounds bluesy, you know exactly how to do that for the key of D. But the major scale are these other notes. So remember, we slide everything down 3 frets, 1, 2, 3. That's the major scale. Well, look where we're at. We're back in position, bouncing off the back of this D chord. So hopefully some light bulbs are going off for some of you going, okay, so that's how when I'm playing these licks, I'm really just playing the D major scale. And I'm just, because they're all bunched together, it allows you to put groups of notes together and do some harmonizing. So that's kind of where we're at. The only other, so when we start this lick and I play that, look at where that is. That is actually pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale for the key of D. And here's what I mean by pattern 2. Pattern 1 looks like that. It just looks just like the minor pentatonic scale. It's just slid down 3 frets. But the pattern 2 would be here. And so those of you that are familiar with the blues lead course on activemelody.com will know what I mean by these patterns. And so that's this pattern 2. Look at that. You have these notes. That's where I'm getting that at, that little slide, because that little box already exists there in the major pentatonic scale. So for the key of D. So when I start this lick and I go, I started it in the major pentatonic scale, then I slid down and did that same slide. And so for that, I'm starting here on the 10th fret. Now we'll get into the specifics of the notes. 10th fret, 1st and 2nd string, barring that with my pointer finger, and we're going to slide up to the 12th fret, and then we're going to slide back to the 10th fret. And I do that by just picking it once, one downstroke with my right hand. And then we're going to come down and we're going to grab the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, and we're going to do the same thing but slide from the 5th fret to the 7th fret. So those are your first 4 notes. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to take my pointer finger and come down and grab, really I'm barring the first 3 strings on the 7th fret, but I'm only going to pick strings 2 and 3. Those 2 strings. And so hopefully what you're going to get out of this is not just the exact notes to memorize, although that's cool too. It's a good practice technique. But you can start to see the correlation of how these licks play off of these chords. So if you've got the D chord now, if you're making this chord shape, you can always resort to that little lick around it. So if we're playing it in C, for example, it just gives you some ideas for how to do some interesting things around it. So you could play, you can come up with other licks. So, okay, so now after that, I went like this. Now let's look at where I'm at. All I'm doing is I'm playing off of that major pentatonic scale, or major scale for the key of D. And so after I play on the 7th fret these 2 strings, I'm going to take my middle finger on the 8th fret, 2nd string, which I just showed you earlier. Ring finger goes down on the 9th fret 3rd string, and we're going to play those 2 notes, but we're going to slide it up 2 frets. So we're going to slide it up to here, so that my middle finger is on the 10th fret and my ring finger is on the 11th fret. So we're going to start it here, and then we're going to come back to the 8th fret and 9th fret, then back to this little bar here on the 7th fret. So let's just do those 3. Now we're going to, check this out, I'm going to just come up here and bar the really the first 4 strings on the 9th fret, and I'm going to play strings 3 and 4. And then I'm going to come down and bar the first 4 strings on the 7th fret and play strings 3 and 4. So when you see what you're doing, all of those notes that were just played there, they were all part of that D major scale. But they're in a position or in a place where they're kind of bunched together and you can grab those notes. Now all you have to do is just remember, anytime you're playing this chord shape, if you can quickly slide over and bar, instead of playing your pinky or your ring finger on this fret, slide over so that your pointer finger's on that fret. Look what you can do. Just on those strings 2 and 3. And then you can come down and play these as well. So now, and then you can come down all the way down and bar, the first all 5 strings there on the 7th fret. And there I'm just playing strings 5 and 4, and I'm just hammering onto the 9th fret, 5th string. Isn't that kind of a nice little sound? It sounds almost kind of country, like a pedal steel. I love that. But those are all where those licks are coming from. All right, so now let me back up. So we start with the second time through I went just like that. It's the same thing that we've already done. We're just playing it up, backing it down, and playing it back up. So it starts there by playing strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret. Then we're going to do this little shape, 8th fret, 2nd string, 9th fret, 3rd string, and that's where we're going to slide that up 2 frets, back down 2 frets, and then back up 2 frets. Notice I only picked it once, just like that. So, and then you could just repeat that. Now, for some of you, you may want to just not move any farther, depending on where you're at with the concept and even the technique of trying to play these notes. If you're struggling at this point, don't move on. Just try and get that to a point where you at least understand where these notes are coming from and why they're working, and then also being able to play them, because once you get the concept, the rest of all of these notes will make a lot of sense, and you'll be able to see chord shapes differently. That's where I want you to get, is so that when you're playing, like I said, you're playing a C chord, now you can come down and play all that was played around the C chord. And it's not that I was pulling it from the same place that we just learned, what we just learned on the D. So, okay, so let's back up. We'll play through everything in that first part, and I'll do it kind of slowly. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now the second time through, or that last time through rather, I went, instead of going like this, I just played it once. And that's a timing thing, so I can get to the next part. Alright, so then the song switches to a G chord, and I played a little part that went, and all I'm doing for that is I'm staying in the D major scale, and so the D major scale pattern 1 is right here. Remember, the minor pentatonic scale is down here. That's the bluesy one, and to get to the major scale, remember we go down 1, 2, 3 frets. That's the major pentatonic scale. Now the major scale has 2 extra notes from just the pentatonic. Remember, the pentatonic is only 5. Penta means 5. So it's like a stripped down version, just the basics, right? So that's the major pentatonic. The major scale, though, has that note and that note. See, these notes come from here. There's one of them. There's the other one. So I just pulled those 2 notes out of that, and they happen to harmonize with each other. So anyway, I took that. This is a 7th fret 1st string and the 8th fret 2nd string, and I'm playing just those 2 notes there and doing a downstroke with my right hand. Now I'm going to take that same shape and I'm going to slide it up so that my pointer finger is down on the 9th fret 1st string and my middle finger is down on the 10th fret 2nd string. Same shape, we just slid it up 2 frets. And again, this is part of, if you'll analyze that major scale, this is all part of that. Now we're going to come up like this. Now for this, I take my middle finger off the fretboard, keeping my pointer finger down so that my pointer finger goes to the 10th fret 1st string, and my ring finger goes to the 12th fret 2nd string. So the shape changed. So we went from this shape to this shape, and then we go back to the shape that we just came from, which is just like that. 9th fret 1st string, 10th fret 2nd string. So when we put it all together with the timing, it goes. Now the second time through, I took this shape and slid this shape up 2 frets. And all I'm doing is going down, 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 up, down. So if you watch my right hand, it's down, 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 up, down, up, down. Pretty simple. Just keep the control so that you're only picking those 2 strings. All you need are the top 2 strings. So and that's why I had a hard time labeling this lesson. Are you playing lead? Are you playing rhythm? Well, you're kind of doing both. It's not a full-on rhythm. I always think of a chord with at least 3 notes in it. Although a power chord, I guess, has 2. So anyway, that's that G part. So let me back up and I'll play. I'll just do one of these. Now we'll get to the G. See those little stops I'm doing with my right hand? It's control, right? You don't want it to ring out like this. Well, you could do that, I suppose, but if you want it to sound real precise, and then I came back. And then the next thing I did was I went, so the chords at this point, they alternate between an A and a G. So it goes, there's your G, A, G. It does it 3 times, A, G, and then it goes back to the D. So while it's alternating between the A and the G, I played. And all I'm doing here is I'm playing the same little lick over those chords. And so when I'm playing an A chord, so when the song's in an A, for example, look what you can do. You can bar, so if this is an A, our root, if we're playing a bar chord, for example, our bar would be on the 5th fret, right? So we can play off of this shape. We can bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, and we can do a little hammer on to the 7th fret here. So we're only playing the top 2 strings now. See, I'm just keeping that bar down the whole time. Now we're going to take that same concept and slide it down 2 frets and do it over the G. Now keep in mind, just think about where we're at. That's what an A chord looks like with a bar. Here's what a G chord looks like with a bar. So you can see the bar is here on the 3rd fret. That's why we're barring those 2 strings. So okay, so let's back up. So we have. Now I take my middle finger and put it down on the 3rd string, 4th fret. And you can see what I'm doing. That's just a G chord. It's really just that bar chord minus all of the bar and these 2 fingers. That's all I'm doing. But I'm just, it gives me another place to go. So we have. And that's how I played it. Add that note in with your middle finger. Then we're going to come back, do a hammer on again, and then release that and just play the first 2 strings. So we have A, G. We're going back to the A. Now we're going back to the G again. This time we're not going to put our middle finger down. We're just going to go. Then I went. Just a little bend. So in context it sounds like this. And that bend happens right here on the 5th fret, 2nd string. And I use my ring finger for it and I go. And then the 2nd note that I play is on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. And give it a little bit of vibrato. And then you're right back in position to. And that really is all there is to that first part. Now let me back up and I'll play through it. Hopefully I've explained where it all comes from enough that you can start to apply this to your own playing. So when we do the A to the G, just imagine using that in another way. So you can think, well, this song, most of the song's in the key of D, right? So that bar chord would be up here. So you could use this little concept up here if you wanted to. You see how it all kind of hopefully starts to gel, and it all really plays off what chord you're on. Okay, so I'm going to back up and play through it. We have, and I'll kind of do it a little bit slower than the tempo. Here we go. And that's all there is to the first half. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Make sure you watch part 2, and I'll get into the little lead parts that I threw in there as well. So we'll see you in part 2.